Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. Terry and I, if you noticed, took a holiday break, so we're here back for our first episode of 2025.
Yes,
And
Happy New Year.
yes, and Happy New Year. And we're here to do the second episode on what not to do. In our last episode, we pulled up an HBR article that we both thought recapped the top 15 things and overlapped a lot of what we wanted to talk about. So we went through the first five. Today, we're going to go through the second five, and I'm going to share my screen. Before I do that, let me introduce Terry Mays, certified culture engineer. She's been working on culture for many, many years, frequently giving talks, more so these days. And I'm Frank Warner, the founder and CEO of People Productive. So without further ado, let me get to that list. I'm going to share my screen if you give me one moment here. Okay. All right. And here is this HBR article from 2018. So last time, Terry, we talked about the first five, from politics, turf wars, no alignment, all the way down to lack of strategy or vision. And today we're going to start with not adopting emerging technologies. So I'm going to give just a quick intro on this not adopting emerging technologies. I've seen this many times in my career. Companies actually struggle to fit in these new technologies. And the reality is, when new technologies emerge, you've got to start using them and playing with them so that you have people in-house who understand how they would fit in and add value in your environment. That's the innovation puzzle. And, companies miss out on a lot of things because they don't really have an external focus. They don't look at the emerging and evolving technology environment, and they miss these emerging technologies. And worse, they end up adopting them very late and coming in late on the curve. What have you seen, Tara?
Yeah, I've seen the same thing where companies are just not focused on external factors. And so they're just heads down trying to keep the lights on. But by the time they realize that their competitors are looking externally and they are adopting new and emerging technologies, they are kind of on that cutting edge and even, doing some trend setting. Now
Yeah.
you're having to catch up so that you can actually do what some other companies are doing. If you think about things like what Tesla has done, just in innovation in the vehicles, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's nothing short of amazing. But now other companies are making their way towards electric vehicles, and almost everybody now has at least one on the market. But when the Tesla came out, nobody had electric cars. You had some hybrids, at that time, but nobody had a fully electric car. And so that's,
Yeah.
leading edge technology. They have had to have had that car in development for years, where they had people that were looking to adopt new things and try out new things. You've got to get out of that mold of being afraid to try something new. You have to be able to create some sandboxes for people to play around in with these new technologies. Things may be
You do.
scary from a security perspective, so you want to make sure that you lock everything down in a way that you won't expose your company secrets or, any kind of proprietary information. You have to be careful about that. But man, adopt it. Have a team that's focused on it, have people that are thinking about it and looking at it, that they can share their knowledge across the organization. You've got to have some
Yeah.
people doing that because you'll
I,
constantly be behind the eight ball.
well, the whole issue of what Tesla did also brings up a big risk, because Tesla invented the software-defined vehicle. And as we've seen other companies try to build that, like Volkswagen Group, which ended up writing off $1.6 billion, effort was a complete failure. We see GM writing off billions of dollars because they can't build autonomous vehicle software. And so Tesla, I mean, they did the software-defined vehicle with over-the-air updates and things very well, but the big existing companies trying to branch into a new area of innovation couldn't actually staff it right.
Yeah.
And they were never able to break the mold of, type of engineering they did and become a software engineering company. So I think that's instructive, for other companies, because the real risks when you try to actually take on some of these things that new entrants have developed. And,
Yeah.
that gets down then to this whole lack of executive support, which is the next one. If you're going to do it, you really need this executive support in the company to really take innovation and commercialize it. No question about it.
Yeah.
And companies don't have enough executive support to do some of the bigger things that are needed. They don't get the budgets, as we know. That was one of the earlier ones we went over. And I've seen that myself many times.
Yeah. You've got to dedicate some resources. So, people resources, financial resources, innovation is not cheap. This is
Mhm.
not an area where you can just go with the lowest cost. A lot of times there's not a whole lot of competition in this space. So there's only one or two options. So you have to pay whatever it costs, right? So in some cases, for some of these things, you just got to pay for it and let your people try it out. Don't be afraid to let people try and learn and fail. We talked about this before about
Yeah.
failing fast. You want to let people get exposed to something new, let them fail quickly and learn quickly so that you can try something else and try something else. That's one of the beautiful things about agile cultures. You can try something. If that doesn't work, try something else. And you don't have this immense overhead that's slowing down the machine such that you can't
Mhm.
actually get things done because you can't get things approved. You can't make changes because the change process is so complex. When you have an agile culture, you can move quickly, change quickly, evolve quickly. And that's the space that you have to be in these days where things are just changing so much. They're changing in a way that you cannot afford to have a lot of lag in your processes and your procedures.
You got to move fast. There's no question
Yeah.
about it. And the companies that move fast are the ones who are actually winning because they're leaving other people in the dust.
Yeah.
Now we move on. Recruiting not enough of high demand skill sets. I've seen it. I've seen that also many times. These new hot skills end up being very expensive to bring the people in, but you have to seed your teams with people who know this. You could do it with consultants, but you ultimately have to build these skills internally because
Yeah.
that institutional knowledge, combined with technical knowledge of people who have all the social capital and work well together, that's how you really get the breakthrough innovation.
Yeah.
So
You know,
getting it on staff's vital.
yeah, the truth about a lot of this stuff with innovation is, a lot of this area of AI and machine learning, these are new technologies, so new that people haven't been able to go to school for that.
Yeah,
People, you could study AI, back when I was in college, even you could study AI, but it was very much at the very early stages.
inference engines,
Yeah. And now, you've got a little bit more education out there. You've got a few more classes. People are starting to be able to go to school for this. But a lot of things like data scientists, for another example, you've got to grow that expertise. You've got to get people into some training courses. You've got to give them opportunity to learn on the job because you're not necessarily going to be able to go and hire a college student to do it.
you
It's
got to
just
build these sandboxes. People have to use it and try it
you
out. You
got to
got to
let
make sure
people
it's
learn it.
secure, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
But you got to
absolutely.
use it. You got to do it.
You got to use it. You've got to grow. You don't want to just hand it off to a consulting company and let them grow this skill set and then walk away with all of that knowledge. Don't make that mistake. Make sure
No,
that you're growing the resources in-house, taking those younger people that have just started with the company, exposing them, giving them opportunities to learn and to grow. And that's how you grow the expertise you need, by getting people that are interested in learning, that have the capability to learn, and then go and train them up so that you can actually grow up your own data scientists, grow up your own machine learning experts. You've
yeah.
got people in the organization that are already interested in those topics. Feed that interest. Make it so
And
that you have a high demand skill set that you've grown in your organization. Pair them with another expert to help them go further faster. Like, don't just sit back and say, well, we can go and hire all of these people, because the pool for high demand skill sets, it's not very large. So everybody is competing for the same resources, which is a good thing for the resources, right? So the people that
right.
have these skill sets, you can kind of write your own check. But that also
But you
means
got
that,
to take care of them internally because
yeah,
you're going to train them or they're going to leave. And that's the other
yeah,
mistake companies make. They get these people, they're paying them X amount of money. They're really, really hungry, thirsty learners. They learn all the new stuff, but they never get compensated as being in that category.
Right.
So this is where understanding what different jobs are really worth matters, and making sure those people get taken care of. Because if you're going to build a continuous learning culture, people are going to be growing their value.
Yeah.
And certainly you want a culture where you understand how to retain people without money. We went through a whole series of,
Mhm.
episodes on that, how to motivate people without money. You got to do that, but you've got to train them and you've got to reward them when they learn. And that's how you build the continuous learning culture and you evolve so you can innovate using these new technologies. But
Yes.
excellent points, Terry. We got the next one here, which is inability to catch critical signals or developments. So we did talk about this on kind of the external focus. You've got to build a culture where people have time to see what's going on in the world around them. You can't just think they're going to get it through osmosis or they're going to do it on their own time. You've got to assign that as a responsibility for certain people who are interested in that kind of learning. And they have to actually share what they're finding. And that's
Yeah.
got to feed, as we went through in these first 15 episodes on how to create an innovative culture, they got to feed that into the loop so that that starts to get incorporated into the ideas that come out. And that's really, really important. I think companies are very bad at that because they're running thin. The people are overtasked. They don't have time to even, time to think, as we know from all the studies that we've done. And the reality is, there's no interruption free time, so they're consumed, and there is no external focus. It's lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Look, you've got to have people that will tell you the truth. You have to build that into your organization so that you don't miss those critical signals and developments that are happening at lower levels in the organization that may never make it up to you. So you've got to have some people with their eyes and ears to the road so they know what's going on in the organization. They're close enough to the people that are doing the real work so that they can actually assess and determine, is this something that we need to pay closer attention to?
Yeah.
Or is this something that, hey, it's not really that big of a deal? But you don't want to get caught off guard with, by missing these critical signals, missing those critical developments that are happening within the team to then now it's a big giant explosion. You want to be able to catch it while it's something small so that you can go in and make the corrections and move on from there.
Yeah, and in one of the episodes, we went through the idea valuation, funding, and approval. And that's very important because a lot of times people come up with ideas and then they don't really get valued in terms of what they mean to that company, what they could mean to products, what they could mean as a competitive threat.
Yeah.
So, if you ever read that book, The Innovator's Dilemma, you see the 12-inch drives, storage drives being put out by the 8-inch floppies, being put out by the 5-inch hard disk, being put out of business by the 3-inch drives, and on and on and on. And all these drive manufacturers who had actually outcompeted somebody else didn't see it coming because maybe they saw the signal, but they didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
And so these external signals, are just absolutely real.
Yeah. You've got to be able to see them and assess them, but you've also got
Yeah.
to be able to do something about it.
We get to number 10 here, lack of CEO support. We had lack of executive support, which certainly can be the case that they're all focused on what they got to get done. But the CEO is critical because they set the tone at the top. And if they aren't making this, building an innovative culture and coming up with ideas, a real fundamental part of their strategy for success, it's not going to take hold because each executive is going to focus on their shorter term goals and what they need versus holistically, where's this enterprise going? How are we building the future?
Yeah.
And that's why so many of these digital transformation efforts fail. That's why many of them will fail with AI because they're not going to do the human machine teaming correctly, and on it goes.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, in order to have a truly agile culture, it cannot be relegated to just one part of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have just one team or one group or one area. You really do have to have it be company wide. Everybody is involved, and there's one team with one goal, one focus.
Yep.
You cannot just think that you can have a set of people that are working on agile off to the side and then that makes your company agile or your organization
Isn't
agile.
that the biggest joke?
That will never work. You have to spread it across the entire company. It has to start from the top with adoption. So, a lot of times, where you see this lack of CEO support and lack of executive support, it's because they have not adopted the agile culture themselves, which in turn means they don't understand what the benefit is to them. And
Yeah,
then when it's time to approve some of these innovation projects and some of these high cost, high dollar consultants, there's a lot of reservation because they don't know and they don't understand. And so as a leader, you have to make sure that you are leading up and leading down. So that means you've got
yeah,
to also help your leaders above you understand what it is that you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. Understand the value proposition for all these things that you're doing and help them adopt those same principles that you're trying to implement in your organization. Your
yeah,
top level leadership, executive level leadership, they have to buy into that and they have to adopt it. It's one thing to say that they are on board, but it's another thing to see them on board in action in
yeah,
their actions and what they're doing. So that's what you
yeah.
want. You want leaders that have actually bought into the vision and they themselves are practicing agile culture.
They get it. They understand it. I agree with you. Many times they don't take the time to learn. It's a term that's getting thrown around. And then they're in a meeting and somebody says, well, we're doing waterfall, but we've applied agile principles. Like, what? If you really understand it, that's just nonsense.
Right.
And, this is what happens in many companies. They try to declare victory
Yeah.
without even really becoming at all agile. And then people start to believe the lies.
Yeah.
And that's,
Agile teams are made up of people from across the organization. That's the
yeah,
whole premise behind it is you can't relegate it to just one area. You need the entire company, everybody involved in this. And now it's a we and not just a them
right.
or that's just their stuff. No, it's our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of crazy. Well, listen, we're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, except during holidays, like we just went
Mhm.
through. And we have one more episode in the series on innovation. We're going to recap quickly the 15 steps to build an innovative culture. So the last two steps here, which I'm what not to do, we're not going to repeat that, obviously. But next Wednesday, we'll be here and we're going to talk about those 15 steps kind of laid out, put it all together so you can see it all in one place. And I think it's going to be a good episode. If you enjoyed it so far, you're going to enjoy the recap, no doubt about it. So
Yes.
appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.